Hey everybody, my name is Jerrod Smith, aka the Attitude Coach, and you need to expect the unexpected. What do I mean by that? Expect the unexpected. In sales, you may have a fantastic product, you might have all the knowledge about that product, you might even know 42 times more than a customer is ever going to ask you, but you need to be prepared for the unexpected. And if you're not, that's fine too. But just don't get negative on a customer when they decide not to purchase your product or your service because you weren't prepared. So, point in case, let me give you an example. Years ago, running a direct sales company, I had a customer. We were doing a presentation, fantastic presentation of a very high-end product in their home. Now, when I say this, the salesperson, the rep that was actually doing the presentation, called me up and said, "Jerrod, they're highly qualified. They actually are in the market for this product. They can afford this product. They like the product. They want the product. They would use the product." But she's told me that she can't buy it because she needs to speak to God first. Okay, fair enough. So I wasn't far from there. I was around the corner. So I ended up going in. The sales rep introduced me to the lady. And believe me, they totally loved the product and they were into it. And I said, "Mary, you like it?" She goes, "I love it." And I said, "Would you like to get one?" She goes, "I'd love to get one." And I said, "Is there anything stopping you from getting one?" And she goes, "Yeah, I can afford this. I just need to speak to God." And I said, "Okay, great." I said, I can understand that too. I said, "Normally when you speak to God, where do you do that?" And she goes, "Well, Jerrod, I've got this great little area out in the back. It's a gazebo. I got flowers everywhere. It's plants. It's beautiful. It's really nice." And she goes, "I sit over there, and that's when I ask him, some of my tough situations in life, and he can walk me through it." I said, "Well, how long does that normally take?" And she goes, "Look, sometimes I get answers back straight away. Sometimes it can take up to a half an hour." And I was like, "Okay, well, listen, we've got to finish up the job that we promised you here in your home. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It could take us at least 20, 30 minutes to make sure that we finish up and do the job that we promised you. So while we're doing that, would you mind stepping out and having a chat with God and see if he thinks that you deserve one and if you could get one?" And she said, "Jerrod, that would be great. If you guys give me that time, I'll find out." And I left her and she went walking out. I was hanging out with the salesperson. The salesperson looked at me like I was kooky. And I said, "Mate, that's what's happening. You got to expect the unexpected." So we're getting things cleaned up. And probably 15 minutes later, she walked in. We still hadn't finished cleaning up. And I looked at her. She looked at me. And I said, "Mary, how'd you go?" And she says, "Yeah, really well, really well." And I said, "What happened?" And she goes, "Well, I spoke to God." And I said, What did he say?" And she said, "He told me that I deserve one and that I should get one." And I said, "Well, that's great news." We shook hands and did the paperwork and put her through a training class and showed her how to use the product. And she was happy as, loved it, and couldn't rave on enough about it. So expect the unexpected. It could have been really easy where a salesperson could have just packed up everything and walked out. But the salesperson made a phone call, said, "Jerrod, I'd like to help her out, but I don't know how." And she didn't know how to communicate or engage back with the salesperson. So why is it important to know this? It's important because there might be sales that you're missing out there. It's so easy for a salesperson to just walk right out of the house or out of a business or out of a meeting without asking just a little bit more and finding out what's stopping a business or an individual from actually progressing to the sale, to executing that sale. And sometimes salespeople will stop after the first no, or they won't dive down deep enough to understand, or the relationship hasn't been built very well. And that's a whole nother topic. But, expecting the unexpected, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing. And in business, you need to expect the unexpected. So my name is Jerrod. I'm the Attitude Coach. Thanks for listening.